Saving money sounds like a luxury when you're living paycheck to paycheck. I used to think it was something only people with high-paying jobs could do. But 6 months ago, I made a decision that changed everything. I wanted to save $5,000 in half a year, even though my income was low. I didn't have a fancy job or a big salary. I worked retail, made just above minimum wage, and sometimes picked up side gigs. My take-home income was under $2,000 a month. Rent, food, bills, everything added up quickly. But I had a goal, and I was determined to make it work. It started with getting brutally honest about my money. I printed out my last 3 months of bank statements and started tracking every dollar. I wasn't just glancing at my expenses, I categorized them. Rent, groceries, dining out, subscriptions, gas, clothes, impulse buys, and so on. I highlighted what was essential and what wasn't. That was the wake-up call. I realized I was spending over $150 a month on food delivery and coffee. Another $100 on subscriptions I barely used. And about $200 a month on miscellaneous purchases, things I didn't need like gadgets or clothes I wore once. So the first thing I did was build a zero-based budget. Every dollar had a job. I used a simple spreadsheet, but you could use any budgeting app or even a notebook. My income was roughly $1,900 a month, so I assigned every dollar to a category. $700 for rent, $150 for utilities, $200 for groceries, $100 for gas, $50 for a prepaid phone plan, $200 for savings, and the rest got spread out between minimum debt payments, insurance, and a tiny fun budget. I wasn't just saving what was left over. I treated saving like a bill. It came out first. The next step was cutting expenses. This wasn't about deprivation, it was about being smart. I canceled Netflix, Spotify, and a few other streaming services. Instead, I used my local library for free access to movies, audiobooks, and even streaming content. I made coffee at home and started meal prepping every Sunday. I learned how to cook basic meals in batches: rice, beans, stir-fries, pasta, and soups. Not only did this save money, but it also made my week less stressful. I wasn't tempted to grab takeout after a long day because food was already in the fridge. Then I downsized my lifestyle. I moved in with a roommate, which instantly cut my rent from $900 to $700. It wasn't glamorous, but I saw the extra $200 as a stepping stone toward my bigger goal. I also got rid of my car and switched to biking and public transport. Gas, maintenance, and insurance were draining me. Getting rid of my car saved me around $250 a month. It was inconvenient sometimes, but it forced me to be more intentional with my time and planning. Now let's talk about increasing income. Cutting expenses can only go so far. To really push my savings, I needed to earn more. I started by picking up extra shifts at work whenever I could. I said yes to weekends, holidays, anything with overtime. Then I found small side gigs through apps like TaskRabbit, Fiverr, and even doing odd jobs for neighbors, dog walking, yard work, or assembling furniture. I wasn't making a ton from these gigs, maybe $100 to $200 extra a month, but every dollar went straight into savings. I also started reselling. I looked around my apartment and found stuff I didn't use: old electronics, clothes, books, kitchen appliances. I sold them on Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, and eBay. In the first month alone, I made over $300 from just decluttering. After that, I hit up thrift stores and garage sales to flip items. I got good at spotting valuable things: branded shoes, vintage electronics, rare books. I made an average of $150 a month from flipping items. It wasn't passive, but it added up fast. Next, I opened a separate savings account at a different bank, one with no debit card and no mobile app. This way, I couldn't easily transfer money back and forth. Every time I got paid, I transferred a portion to that account, no exceptions. Sometimes it was $250, sometimes only $100. But the key was consistency. That account was off limits. It was my emergency buffer and my proof that I could achieve something big. I also used the power of automation. I set up an auto transfer of $75 a week to my savings. It happened every Friday like clockwork. This removed the emotional friction of saving. I didn't have to think about it. I adjusted my budget around it and treated it like a non-negotiable bill. Another big help was adopting the cash envelope method for variable spending. I withdrew cash for groceries, gas, and fun money. When the envelope was empty, I was done spending. This gave me a visual and physical limit. It made me pause and ask, is this worth it? I used to swipe my card without thinking, but paying with cash forced me to slow down and consider my choices. One of the most powerful mindset shifts I had was learning the difference between being cheap and being frugal. Being cheap is about spending less no matter the value. Being frugal is about spending smartly and intentionally. I didn't stop spending altogether. I just became more strategic. I bought used instead of new. I delayed purchases to see if I really needed them. I stopped trying to keep up with trends and focused on my own goals. I also leaned on community. I joined personal finance groups on Reddit and Facebook. I listened to budgeting podcasts and watched YouTube channels about saving on low income. Hearing other people's stories kept me motivated. It reminded me that I wasn't alone and that others had done it too. That belief was critical. When you're scraping by, it's easy to feel hopeless. But seeing proof of success gave me the grit to keep going. I tracked my progress every week. I made a simple chart where I filled in a bar every time I saved $100. Watching that chart fill up was incredibly satisfying. It kept me going when I was tempted to give up or spend impulsively. I even rewarded myself with a $10 treat every time I hit a $500 milestone, usually a cheap meal or something small that made me happy. By month 3, I had saved over $2,400. By month 4, it was $3,300. The last 2 months were the toughest. I had to say no to social events, decline weekend trips, and skip a few celebrations. It was hard. I felt like I was missing out, but I reminded myself this was temporary. My sacrifices were for a purpose. I visualized the end goal, having $5,000 in the bank and finally breathing financially. In month 6, I hit my goal, $5,071. It didn't happen by luck. It happened because I made hundreds of small choices every day. I had setbacks, unexpected bills, slow weeks at work, burnout, but I always came back to the goal. Saving $5,000 on a low income taught me that money is about mindset and discipline more than anything else. You don't need a 6-figure salary to build financial security. You need a plan, a purpose, and the persistence to follow through. Since then, I've continued saving, started investing, and slowly built up an emergency fund. I'm no longer stressed every time a bill is due. I've stopped living in financial survival mode. My next goal is to pay off my credit card and build a 6-month emergency fund. If I can do it, anyone can. You just need to start $1 at a time. To anyone watching this who feels like they're stuck, like saving is impossible, let this be proof that it is possible. Not easy, not fast, but absolutely possible. You don't have to do everything at once. Just start with one habit, track your spending, make a budget, cut one expense, pick up one side gig, and then build from there. The truth is, saving money isn't about restriction. It's about freedom. The freedom to choose where your money goes. The freedom to say no to debt. The freedom to build a life on your terms. When you're in control of your money, you're in control of your future. So that's how I saved $5,000 in 6 months on a low income. It wasn't magic, it was math and mindset. And if I could do it while earning under $2,000 a month, so can you. Start today. Your future self will thank you.